because that's how we roll, because John has tendency. I jumped the gun big time. We're a minute ahead of schedule. I don't know what that's all about. And then I didn't even hit the intro video. So, yep, Old Man Brain Award goes to John. All right, before I go off on some weird old guy tangent, let me start the recording, and then we'll proceed with the Liberty Talk.
The Constitution isn't just a document. It's a blueprint for freedom. We're breaking down politics at every level, exposing government overreach, and going where the mainstream media surely won't. Join us in defending individual rights against the bureaucratic tide. You're listening to the Missouri Liberty Report.
All right, folks, it is the first Tuesday of the month, which means it's a Martzist, not Marxist, Martzist. Please don't get it confused here. So it is a Marxist edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. And just like Dan Bongino, we own you guys. You guys I'm just in your head. We're just in your head. We own you. What an epic bunch of pile of crap that came out of the guy's mouth. But anyway, I don't want to jump into that right away. But Mr. Martz, welcome back to the program, good sir.
Well, I had the opportunity not to watch Dan Bongino.
Yeah. Well,
and from what I understand, it was an interesting listen. He's bought and paid for, which you could tell that the whole Trump administration anyway. But what he told the people versus what he delivered to the people were at direct opposite ends of each other. The guy's a total waste.
Yep. He is a grade A certified douche canoe. I don't know how else to put it, but just, he is. Before we get into some Missouri stuff here, Brandon, I heard some audio clips. The one is "I own you guys," and the other one's like, it's just it's a level 10 thing. You just can't make everybody happy. And he was all the excuses that he was pulling out. But your thoughts, real quick, on that before we proceed.
Kind of like what Tom was saying, man. He's just a giant nothing burger. He didn't do anything in the Trump administration worth noting about. They arrested Chauncey Billups. So yeah, maybe we can hang our head on that one. Like, okay, cool. And then he gets out. I heard, again, I didn't watch it. I'm not going to give him my time and attention like that. Fortunate enough not to have seen him like Tom. But I heard he was like going in on how crazy what he saw with Crossfire Hurricane was. And okay, but no one got arrested. Like, okay. So yeah, again, Dan Bongino, what a loser.
Yeah, it's almost, if the circumstances weren't so dark, it would be really entertaining. I still find it a little entertaining, like how he thinks. Now he's just turned into a troll. Like the same stuff he accused everybody of black-pilled and then he's just turned into a troll. Like, I own you people. Like, I'm pretty sure you don't. Because there's like 194,000 people watching, like the most watched live stream. I didn't watch it. I should, just to go back and see what the live chat was like, because I bet it was a whole boatload of people calling him out on how horrible, he was in a job 10 months, quit, said we should never drop the Epstein files. Oh, nothing to see here. All this stuff. I bet he was getting eaten alive in his live chat. So I wish I could have. I probably should go back and watch it just to see what the commenters are saying while he's while he's trying to cram a bunch of caca down our throats, I guess would be the best way to put it. But yeah, I'm thinking you got 194,000 people watching. I guarantee you that it's not like 90% overwhelming support for what you did. So yeah. Ace, it's good to see you on the day of the show. She said she always gets notifications a day later, so I'm glad that you got it on time. and that you're here with us this evening. All right, so let's get into this article. Our former House Speaker here in Missouri made a tactical error. Let me just read a little bit of this. There's some highlights in here that are quite important. So this is from the Missouri Independent. This is from this is from September. Oh, wow. Whoa, that's not cool. September 11th, 2025. I haven't seen an update on this either, but so John Diehl, a former Speaker of the Missouri House who was forced to resign in disgrace in 2015 when it was revealed he'd been sending sexually inappropriate text messages to an intern, pleaded guilty Thursday to a federal wire fraud charge. Diehl, a Republican from Town and Country, was released on his own recognizance Thursday, pending a December 19th sentencing hearing. Federal prosecutors say Diehl admitted to applying for a loan through a federal program designed to help struggling businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic and using the money, get this, to make payments on a Tesla, an Audi, and a Jeep, along with pool maintenance, country club dues, mortgage bills, and college tuition for a family member. All total, Diehl admitted to defrauding U.S. Small Business Administration out of $379,000. Wire fraud is punishable by up to 20 years in prison, a $250,000 fine, or both. Diehl's attorney said Thursday that his client has repaid the loan proceeds to the United States Treasury. Diehl was arguably the state's most powerful politician in 2015 when the Kansas City Star revealed he'd been sending sexually inappropriate messages to a 19-year-old house intern. While he initially refused to step down, he eventually resigned when it became clear he'd lost the support of key members of his party. After his political career ended, he lay low for years before reemerging in 2018 to advocate for a company he co-owned that was hoping to mine cobalt in the Boot Heel. He later became embroiled in controversy and independence when the FBI began scrutinizing a contract to demolish the power plant in Missouri City owned by Independence Power and Light. Diehl was attorney for the company that won the contract despite bidding twice as much as the other companies seeking the job. A federal grand jury issued subpoenas to Independence to obtain a number of records related to the two utility deals, including minutes to private meetings held by the Independence City Council where the transactions were discussed. Additionally, numerous city officials were interviewed by federal law enforcement. A Kansas City businessman named Joseph Campbell, who was connected to the utility contract, testified under oath that the FBI questioned him about Diehl, whom he accused of trying to create a fake attorney-client relationship in order to keep from having to hand over certain documents the government requested through a subpoena. Through an attorney, Diehl denied the accusation at the time. No criminal charges had been filed in connection to the Independence contracts. In 2023, Diehl was fined $47,000 by the Missouri Ethics Commission for allegedly misusing campaign funds. So all in all, pretty, I don't know about you, Tom, but sounds like pretty top-notch guy. Like, sounds like a very honest, hardworking, conservative champion there in the House of Representatives here in Missouri for a while.
Well, supposedly he is on February the 19th of 2026 will be his sentencing, but his attorney has requested a further delay into March. But I'm kind of curious. It says that he's repaid all the money, so that's $380,000. Why didn't he just go to the same people that paid off the $380,000 for him to keep his butt out of jail, maybe, instead of using the taxpayers' money to do these same items, the personal expenses, the payments on the Tesla, the Audi, the Jeep, the country club dues, the mortgage bills, the college tuition, the pool maintenance. Why didn't he just go to the very same people who have paid off this $380,000 fraud deal that he just got done perpetrating on the people of Missouri and the United States?
Yeah, good question. What do you got? What you got? What you got? To say, Brandon?
Yeah, and to answer Tom's question, it's because he's a scumbag, and because a scumbag would just take it I mean, probably as a matter of convenience, because he'd have to actually ask people for the money versus this. He just clicks a couple buttons on a website probably, or fills out a form, and bing, bang, boom, money just shows up for him. But I just, whenever you finally got to that last part about how he was fined by the Missouri Ethics Commission $47,000, I just started laughing because, like, what hasn't this guy done shady politics wise? I mean, like an actual tax scandal, a campaign finance scandal, a sexual scandal. I mean, he's hit the trifecta. So yeah, as far as dirty politicians go, he's got quite a rap sheet going for himself.
Yeah, I pulled up the wrong article too because I mean that one had all the pertinent information, but in the article it says he argues prison is unnecessary because he is a first-time offender who repaid the full amount before sentencing. His lawyers say his guilty plea, acceptance of responsibility, and early restitution demonstrate genuine remorse. Yeah, right. Uh, they also cite his age, health issues, work history, and family responsibilities, including caring for aging parents. 3 pages of the sentencing memo are redacted. So there's a whole bunch of redacted info on this as well. Let's see.
But that's
well, check this out though. I didn't see this. So it talked about the Joseph Campbell thing. Campbell was indicted by a federal grand jury in Kansas last month for federal wire fraud and money laundering involving pandemic era loan programs. So the guy that, wow, just wow. It pays really well, apparently, to be Speaker of the House, because we had all kinds of nasty things to say about why am I not, Tom, you have to help me out. The guy before Patterson.
Your favorite person.
Plocker.
Plocker, that's
yeah,
it.
Plocker.
Plocker had a nice bar in his office that he put in there. And I mean, it just must be really, it must really be able to live high on the hog when you're Speaker of the House here, even in Missouri. And see, folks, that's why we keep saying this over and over again on this show. Everybody wants to look at the federal government and see how shady, and it's not hard to point out the shade and the fraud and just everything, the awful things that go on. Sometimes you don't even have to leave the state to see a bunch of nonsense like this. And you're like, oh, like this is why a lot of people are like, not okay, cool, focus on your federal government, but you might want to also focus on your state government as well. This even, funnels all the way down to your city councils. When you got a guy like Chris Bank, who has a city council who just likes to change the rules because he grows too many sunflowers. I mean, there's just a level of sophisticated criminality and just about every level of government. I mean, you'll find a few city governments that are probably pretty well run and not overbearing and try to, pass a bunch of stupid rules and regulations, but most of them suck. And that's all there is to that. But yeah, this is a very interesting thing. I remember seeing something I remember seeing something about this on Facebook, but I just never looked at it. And then now that I'm sitting here looking at it, it's like, okay. And people, that's the other side of this thing. This is a microcosm to the amount of fraud that happened with these COVID loans. I mean, I don't remember the figures that were thrown out when they started looking into how many people, like companies that didn't exist, were getting these PPP loans and all this other stuff. The amount of fraud that went down, and a bunch of those people may never get caught. People like say, well, they had to do something. Yeah, sure. They created this payout system that was apparently just ripe for fraudulent activity. So this is another reason why when they start talking about bailing people out and doing these things, you should really just kind of shake your head no and go, we've seen this movie before and let's not do this anymore. So just another example.
What they didn't do was hire a bunch of people at the same time to monitor for fraud. Like
Mhm.
they didn't have an influx of people handling the loan distribution process. Like I said, he probably just went online and clicked a few buttons and then the money just showed up.
Well, the
And
thing
so
is, though, it was too dangerous to have all those people in a building going through fraud, looking for fraud. You can't do that.
fair enough.
They didn't have enough UV filters in the air, in the air conditioning vents and stuff to make sure no one died of the coronavirus while they're looking for fraud. So everybody just crossed their fingers and hope nobody defrauded the government, because that just doesn't happen ever, never happens.
like you like you said, it's like there's blatant fraud where like you have a fake business, but then if you have a real business and you're just skimming some of that money off the top, you know what I'm saying? Then there's probably a ton of fraud we haven't caught.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Tom, your thoughts?
Well, it's obvious that Diehl was a rookie, because let me read you this one.
Okay.
John Michael Phelps, 49, of Springfield, Missouri, pleaded guilty back in July of 2023 to one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and one count of wire fraud. Phelps owned several restaurants, including Taco Habitat on South Glenstone, Taco Habitat on West Main in Branson. He owned Cluckers, which used to be at South Campbell. He also once owned White River Brewing Company on Commercial Street with his former business partner, Jennifer Phelps. The two were going through divorce proceedings in August. With his 2023 plea, Phelps admitted he participated in a wire fraud conspiracy that illegally obtained or attempted to obtain $13,925,534 through commercial loans, as well as Paycheck Protection Program loans and economic injury disaster loans and grants under the CARES Act from January 2018 to September 13 of 2022. This scumbag got a grand total of 2 years, and he'll be fined $8 million.
That's $5 million less than what he was alleged. Maybe did he already pay back? Is that with? I'm assuming that's got to be with restitution.
No, it doesn't say that he paid back anything yet, but we have crap, I can't think of the name of the Mexican food restaurant that's there now. Oh, Habaneros is on South Campbell. When this facility first opened up, it was a barbecue joint. And then when I think it was Famous Dave's, and then Famous Dave's corporate headquarters went under, so we lost our Famous Dave's, and then this restaurant moved in called Cluckers. And even though it was open, it didn't appear to be open. It was the weirdest thing, because in Springfield, when you drive by a restaurant, the parking lot's full. There's people there. This place, you would drive by the place, the parking lot would be full, and nobody would be in there. So it was a really weird deal. But when the coronavirus hit, it wasn't that long before this dude's he was facing charges early, because he was applying for all different types of loans and the Paycheck Protection Program. And he was wanting this, wanting that. And then next thing you know, Cluckers is taken off of the front of the building, so it no longer exists. And one day it just pops up. Oh, the owner-founders of Cluckers, who also own this, and he owns this, and he owns this, and he owns that. He decided to dip his fingers into the cookie jar and take a whole lot more cookies out than what he deserved. So yeah, it doesn't really say anything in here that he has done any type of payback. He was sentenced after his 2-year sentence. He would then be on supervised release for 3 years. He was reached for comment by phone and declined to comment, so he pled the fifth. And it talks about the list of possessions Phelps must forfeit is long and remarkable in its value. The tally is available through Pacer, a federal court's website. He owned a house off of East Catalpa Street over in the Ritzy neighborhood, but he's got like a 2020 Lexus RX 350. He's got 2024 vans. He's got 2020 Jeep Wrangler. He's got an 18 Cadillac CT6. Oh, he even has a yacht. Must be down in Branson. He's got all kinds of stuff that I guess he has to forfeit to make up for the $8 million he has to pay. He's got a 1952 Topps Jackie Robinson baseball card, a 1980-81 Topps Larry Bird, Julius Irving, and Magic Johnson card signed by all three.
Oh.
He's got a 1909-1911 Ty Cobb baseball card. Man, he was rolling in the funds.
You know, when you're talking about going by and nobody being inside, it's like it was like a Somali daycare version of a restaurant. We're open,
Yeah,
but we're not
like
really
a
open.
money laundering organization.
Yeah. Welcome to Somali Daycare Diner. You're just like, there's nobody in there. Like, oh, you just can't see them. This place is packed.
You know,
So not only do we feed the kids, we eat them.
I tell you what, if I would never pull a scheme like that, but if I woke up with $13 million just like in my bank account, I would be in Buenos Aires. You would not, like, the fact that he was trackable and you found him, that's on him. That's a rookie move there in itself, is just being able to be caught after you have that much money. You could live forever.
I believe before it was where I work now, before it was Hitachi, it was at ABB. I believe they had an employee who they finally figured out had embezzled $2 or $3 million. And then one day he just like poof, vanished, no longer showed up to work, couldn't find him. And it's like, yeah, that guy probably went to a non-extradition country and said, ha ha. And he's probably living large on a beach somewhere, but like, good luck. You're not going to get him back in your country. I don't know. I don't know if companies that large just have hitmen on speed dial. They're like, well, we can't bring him back. So just go. Got this freaking head off, like that type of thing. But yeah, dude, the intestinal fluid, the guts it would take to embezzle a couple mil from the company that you work for. Like every day you'd have to be sweating bullets. Like, oh God, am I going to get caught today? And then you're like, got a plan like to leave, just disappear into the ether and just poof, vanish and no one can find you. Like that guy had that worked out for a long time. It's like, I hate this place. I hate everything it stands for. So I'm going to take a couple mil of their money. I'm going to vanish into thin air. I don't know. That takes a lot of guts to pull something off like that.
Like you're saying, every time the phone rings or you get called into a meeting with your boss, you're just like, oh, this is the one. This is the one I'm going down.
He's just got like a cyanide pill stuck in his shirt pocket. They try to if they lead down that road, I'm gonna off myself right here in this meeting. All right.
And that's when the judge asked, why would you like to change your name to DB Cooper?
Well, I don't know. I think that stands for double bass, and I'm all about double bass. And then, I like Cooper's a good name, sir. So I want to be known as Double Bass Cooper. And they're like, is that it? I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's it, Judge. That's it, Your Honor. I will be now henceforth known as Double Bass Cooper. Also, I'm moving to some Central American country where you can't come and get me. Good day. Tom, I don't know if you want to talk about this or not. I'll leave it up to you. There is so much to do and talk still about this whole thing with trying to reverse the abortion stuff in the Constitution. There's a lot of there are people who are really like cheerleading it, and then there are some others who are like, this is a horrible piece of legislation. Like, what are we even doing with this? I mean, do you want to give us your thoughts on it, or you don't have to? It's up to you.
Well, everything I'm about to say is not attributed to the Locke and Smith Foundation.
Okay, fair enough.
But I do find it rather odd, and I am not coming at this from a deeply religious perspective because I don't deem myself as an individual who is deeply, deeply religious. But you have to ask yourself, for those people that consider themselves deeply religious, why are they supporting an amendment that continues to allow for the murder of an unborn child? I mean, that's what they call it. So the thought process that, and I have not seen the numbers, so I can't say that they exist. I don't know what the numbers are. But when the so-called law of the land was usurped, that being Roe v. Wade, let's forget that it was never the law of the land. It was just something that was acquiesced to, and all the states abided by it, even though that they were not required to do so. But you have a certain percentage of abortions that have been performed year after year after year after year. So then Roe v. Wade was overturned. I believe there was a trigger law in the state of Missouri, which then made the act of an abortion illegal. Now, keep in mind, it never made the pill, not the pregnancy prevention pill, but the other pill, the
Plan
day
B.
after, or whatever it's called. Yeah, it never made that illegal, but it made the surgical procedure known as abortion illegal. So I'm not exactly sure where the numbers stood, although the case could be made that if you were pregnant, then women went to Illinois or women went to Kansas to have this procedure done on them to basically extract a human baby out of their womb and kill it. So I'm finding it rather interesting. And one of the reasons I do find it interesting is I've been reading Hick Christian's several Substacks to where I think, for the lack of a better term, his Substacks seem to take on a demonic thought process, which they're quite interesting to read. He mentions people by name. He also makes the case that this is satire. It's not directly attributed to, but you have pastors and you have other people within the churches and all these different Missouri Right to Life attempting to make the case that Amendment 3 2026 will save lives. Well, it also will kill lives if you're looking at it from the proper perspective, which is both ways, because not only does it legalize abortions up to a certain viability, but then it also allows for an abortion for like anomalies, the birth of the life of the mother, certain things that in reality you can't actually, I'm not too sure you can actually medically quantify that if we don't abort this baby, you're going to die type deal. So it does with what Hick Christian has done in his Substacks. I think he has properly pointed out that there does seem to be a certain thought process of the demonic within the church realm, because there are a lot of people who profess to be Christians who are more than willing to not attempt to try to create a personhood bill or a personhood amendment within the Constitution. They're making the age-old argument, well, let's get what we can get now, and then we'll continue to work to get it to the point where we get what we want. Well, my way of thinking, it sounds to me like you're not willing to work for what it is that you want. You're willing to work for a certain standard to what it is that you'd like to see. So then you can continue fundraising and then convince a whole lot of people that if you continue to funnel money into our organization, we will continue the fight to make abortion illegal in the state of Missouri, knowing full well that will never occur.
Brandon, I'll let you give your 2 cents here, but I agree. And it's not just this topic, right? There's a whole lot of topics where Republicans and Democrats pull this nonsense where they're like, well, we're just, we're going to chip away at it, knowing full well that they'll never get 100%. This is a way for them to go back to their constituents and get an attaboy and a pat on the butt or a good game or whatever. And then it just ceases from there. Now IP reform never got really done, right? But this reminds me of IP reform. Every year we're going to get IP reform done. And then you get a really good bill. And then the last day somebody throws a hissy fit and it just dies. And then the next year we're going to get IP reform done. And then we have to get it done. And then they waited, like, we got abortion coming on the ballot. We got to get this IP reform done now. And they come up with the most horrible situations and ways to deal with it when they've had seemingly have had the opportunity several sessions in a row to do it. And they always, because lobbyists and things like that don't want it. I'm talking like Missouri Realtors Association didn't want IP reform, some other outfits like that. And the Missouri Realtors Association, they put a lot of money, a lot of lobbying money into a lot of politicians' pockets here in Missouri. And if you want, you go back and look for episodes of Rogue Politics with Catherine Dreher and Kirby Lane. They lay this out pretty well. And so, there's just, I'm to be honest, for me, and I'm sure I can kind of speak for both of you, I am really tired of especially these hot button topics like abortion and these half-baked attempts to do things. And then they just want to go around and congratulate each other and pat each other on the back and give each other high fives. And the people with more than 2 brain cells to rub together go, I don't know what you're celebrating right now, but this is terrible. And it can be on abortion. It can be on a lot of other topics as well. But this half-hearted attempt, I remember watching, and I know I brought this up when we had Representative Overcast on, watching a debate between a Republican, a Democrat, and a Libertarian. And marijuana got brought up, and the Libertarian candidate goes, the lawmakers should get this done. And if they don't have the spine to do it, you put it to the people. But I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from that whole debate. Is he said it more than once. Lawmakers don't have the spine to do things. And there's, I think, Tom, you said it. They're a lion on social media and they're a sheep behind closed doors or in the gallery. So, or on the floor. So, Brandon, over to you. Your thoughts on any of this stuff, and we'll move on to some other topics.
Well, to like Tom's point, I really like Tom's point on how if you solve a crisis or you solve a problem, then you're not going to continue to get the same level of funding, and you're not going to that's across all issues. And so, yeah, there is going to be a vetted interest in not getting a good bill across and continuing the fight, as you guys were saying, so you can continue to draw money from that same base. I mean, Definitely a lot of that. You see that with like homelessness in California too. Like they pour billions of dollars into it and somehow homelessness gets worse. So then what's the answer? Pour more and more money into it. And so, yeah, you could definitely see Missouri politicians playing that here. Again, I think what's strange is in 2024 is that's when it passed, right? It was the same election that Trump did when he won presidency. So Trump wins presidency by a wide margin in Missouri, and then Amendment 3 also passes. So my only I mean, there could be Republicans who are also like afraid to take a harder stance because they think it's going to hurt politically later. So maybe that's why you're seeing such a half-baked approach is for people in, I guess, purple areas or, I mean, I don't know too many purple districts, but there's got to be a handful in Missouri that are, within margin. So maybe they're thinking about possibly that and how bad 2026 might be just across the board for Republicans, the way things are looking on paper right now. So I don't know, maybe some of that plays into it.
Well, and that's the thing, because our ballot initiative process is horrible. And yeah, 51-49, because our ballot initiative process is terrible and it's 50 plus 1% to win. And things like this, Amendment 3 with the marijuana, boatloads of other things get put into the Constitution because it's too easy to do it. Now, there have been some really good grassroots people who have screamed to the heavens about this and tried to get people to understand that there's a good way to do IP reform and there's a bad way to do IP reform. There were some solid pieces of legislation, and there were several that were god awful. And the god awful ones seem to get way more traction than the ones that would have benefited normal liberty loving folks, as we could see that we took positive steps to ensure that you couldn't just throw 300 more pages into the Constitution and make it the size of an old phone book by the time you're done. But the higher ups in the party, the Republican Party, and the lobbyists don't want that. So again, folks, we got to understand, organizations like the Farm Bureau, they don't want personal property taxes to go away. It could help the farmers a lot, but we're not going to do that. I don't know, if I was in the Farm Bureau and I was high up, I'd be, pushing for stuff like, yeah, let's get hemp just fully legalized here in the state, the growth. And on it, even if, especially on an industrial scale. Like, hey, you guys don't have to depend on corn and soybeans all the time. You could grow hemp. And it doesn't, break down the nutrients in the soil so fast, and we can make thousands of products from it. But if you want, grow hemp. And we don't hear that. It's like you can't get rid of personal property taxes, and then they invite these characters to speak at events, and these so-called conservatives who talk a good game about saving the family farm, but then all they want to do is agricultural tax credits, like Parson. That used to be his go-to. Make sure he got all the farmers' votes just to hand out agricultural tax credits. Wholly unconstitutional, but yeah, who cares? That'll win me a bunch of farm votes, so we're good there. Tom, I do have a question. I have not read up on it, but there was a big to-do about a Senate filibuster, and I don't know if you're up to date on this or not. About they were going to do a state of the judicial thing, and in the Senate, some Republicans filibustered, and it kind of pushed back the timeline on it. They were upset about some rulings. Or I'm sorry, not rulings, some opinions from the Supreme Court. Are you well read up on this? Do you have some information on this? Because again, I haven't really looked into it. There's times when I see the Missouri Senate, especially Republicans, filibustering. Sometimes it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Sometimes they have good reasons. A lot of times they have really horrible reasons. And I just quit reading them because sometimes it's such childish behavior that I don't want my head to explode, so I don't read the article. But do you know anything more about this topic or no?
Yeah, we covered this last Friday on my hour-long segment on KSGF.
Okay.
Senate Bill 22 from 2025 was a bill that was involving, when it was originally titled, it was about ballot summaries. So they were making various changes to revised statute 116 dot whatever. Then it went to the committee. The committee sent it back to the floor. It was still about ballot summaries. Then the infamous titling change occurred to where they made it about, they removed the about ballot summaries and they made it so that it was about judicial proceedings. And within that piece of legislation, they inserted a section that dealt with the Attorney General being able to file some sort of a suit based on a ballot summary or on a constitutional amendment or an initiative petition, but they changed the thought process of what the bill was actually about. Now, it went to the court, and the court, in my opinion, rightly opined that Senate Bill 22 was in violation of Article 3, Section 21, because with the titling change and the new section about the Attorney General being put into that piece of legislation, that they changed the whole makeup of what that bill was about. Now, there is an organization here in Missouri known as Freedom Principle that I got an email from them, and they're furious. They're outraged at how dare a leftist, lunatic, liberal judge rule with the Democrats and determined that such a wonderful piece of legislation was unconstitutional. So upon reading Senate Bill 22, and then I went to our spreadsheet, I noticed that, we as a committee kicked it for an Article 3, Section 21 violation when it was voted out of the House. And then we kicked it again when it came back. We kicked it because the Senate also agreed to the application of the Attorney General being part of the whole equation. And what the judge did, according to Freedom Principle, their main gripe was that the judge did not disjoin the part about the Attorney General, take that part completely out of the bill and allow that piece of legislation to continue on as being constitutional, but just remove that part from it. Well, to my way of thinking, then, if that's what you want the judge to do, are you not then asking the judge to be part of the Legislative General Assembly? Because the judge is looking at a piece of legislation that violates the Constitution. He has opined on why it is that it violated the Constitution. He basically said, no, the whole entire piece of legislation is unconstitutional. Freedom Principle and other organizations like them, what they want the judge to do is they want the judge to use the severability clause. So they want the judge to remove the section out of the legislation that the judge believes is unconstitutional or what makes it unconstitutional, then allow the rest of the bill to continue to be implemented as law. So my way of thinking at that point then is you're asking the judge to be the legislative department. And that's not what he is. That's not what she is. They're the judicial department. If you want that piece of legislation to pass, you know exactly what it is that you have to do now to get it to pass. So introduce it again this year without the Attorney General part in it, pass it in the House, pass it in the Senate, leave it at the same title about ballot summaries, and do what you're supposed to do. Be the legislative department. Don't pass something that is unconstitutional, then expect the judicial department to bail you out by severing the part out of the bill that is unconstitutional, so you then can continue and say, well, it was with the severability clause that the judge then opined that it was constitutional. The judge isn't the legislative branch. The judge isn't the General Assembly. That's not the judge's position to do. The judge did what he was supposed to do. He ruled the whole entire piece of legislation unconstitutional.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, just when it comes back, like when your session comes back in, you just have to refile the bill and pass it constitutionally. Now, I will say that the Republicans, they've just been judges. There's precedent for what the Republicans are talking about. So I guess they're just used to the machine working for them. Like if they make a mistake, they're just used to having this, like the Missouri, the higher courts fix mistakes like that for them. Because I'm sure there's precedent of judges using the severability clause. So, but yeah, I couldn't agree with your point more that it's on the legislature to do the legislating part and the judge to determine if what in front of him is constitutional or not. It's not on him to write legislation and change legislation and then pass it himself, basically.
Yeah, I think we need to somehow hijack the audio system, like in the Senate or the House, or both chambers, actually, and just play the audio of Thomas Massey when he talks about things with the budget and say, if you like these several things, pass them one by one if they're so important. And just play that in a loop. Just see if you can get it through their heads. If this is such a great idea, then pass these bills one by one. Stop mushing them all into one thing and trying to, these omnibus bills or putting things in that have nothing to do with the title, whatever. If you cannot get this legislature, for the most part, there are some that try to just pass a standalone bill. They just can't do it. It just, they might try, but then their friends come in and like, hey, I want to add this on. And they're like, yeah, go ahead. So again, it's like we were talking about a little bit ago. They get to go home and say they passed something. Now, generally, most of the constituents aren't going to go, did you do that constitutionally? Nothing would entertain me more than to find people to go to each and every one of those people. Well, if they have like a town hall meeting or something and they start bragging about a piece of legislation that they got through, for every person, at least one person, each of those town halls to stand up and go, I got a question. Did you pass that constitutionally or did you just smush it in with 14 other bills and cram it through? I want to see I want to hear the excuses they come up with for why they didn't. Well, it got really late in the session and I was really just trying to get it done. So we did this. That's going to be their go-to because it's always late in the session. So we have to get things done. There's so many bills. And you just, there's with there being that many bills, you just have to do this. You have to do whatever's necessary to get your legislation through. And it's like, you have to, you absolutely have to do that. Or are you just taking the easy way out? Again, also, I would like to know why a lot of these people seem to want to file like 20 pieces of legislation. And then has anybody seen what the total number of bills have been that's been filed so far this year? I haven't seen the actual number.
Yeah, you don't want to know.
Oh, come on, give it to me. Give it to me straight.
No, you're probably just better off. I did a Substack on that a while back, but yeah, there's an excess of 1,000 pieces of legislation.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And I think that's just on the House side.
Of course.
because there's another like 300 to 400 on the Senate side. And the Senate Bill 22 that the judge opined on was a Rick Bratton bill. So he was none too happy that the the justice did not do his job for him and sever the clause that he did not like and allow for that bill to then be implemented into revised statute 116 dot whatever. And I'm sorry, that realistically is not what the judicial branch is for, nor in my opinion do I believe that the justices should in any manner do anything in the legislative manner to make it so that a piece of legislation that, let's say it does violate Article 3, Section 21. Let's say the way the bill was implemented, it was an actual function of government. The titling was perfect. Then all of a sudden they changed the titling. They added some stuff to it. At that point right there, that's still a legislative issue. And it is the legislators who are now in violation of the Constitution. It's not up to a judge, nor is it up to a group of judges to then remove all of that crap out of that piece of legislation to make it so that it gets back to its constitutional application so it then can be implemented into the revised statutes of Missouri. That's not what their position is for.
Yeah, so I just did a quick count on page 1. I'm on Legiscan, right, on the Missouri section, and this is just House bills introduced. Now, when I counted on the first page, I think if I didn't miscount, there were 50 bills on that page. I scanned down. That looks about right, 50. Now, when I just told it to go to the last page, now the last page doesn't have a full 50 on it. There are 34 pages.
There's 1,187 pre-filed bills in the House.
Okay, because this is all that's, I'm just doing it by all introduced House 2026. And like I said, I'm pretty sure I counted right a while ago and there were 50 on that first page.
If you go back to just the Missouri homepage. So just Legiscan/MO. Legiscan.com/MO.
Okay. Oh, if I could spell.
And once that comes
You
up,
piece of crap. It added some other stuff in here. Let me get rid of that.
And there are 787 Senate bills.
Good Lord. They're trying to catch up with the House now.
Scroll down to the bottom.
If you go to the top of, like, if you go to house.mo.gov or you go to senate.mo.gov and you go to the opening page where you click on legislation, it literally tells you right at the top left-hand corner how many bills have been pre-filed, how many are in committee, how many are on all kinds of different things.
So legiscan.com/Missouri, it just shows, and now this is showing introduced, engrossed, enrolled, and passed. It is showing a total of 2,521 bills. Now, I'm guessing this is Senate and House, and that, I guess, is up to date. 2,521 is what Legiscan is showing.
Yeah, and that probably counts all the joint resolutions and the
right.
Concurrent resolutions.
That's bananas. Now, we are in the first month of the session. And just to put this in perspective, for the whole, because I know, like, I'm pretty sure as time goes on, more legislation gets, brought forth. There's a lot of pre-filing, but at 2025 had a total of 2,673. So there are 152 below that 1 month in, and I'm sure more people will be introducing more legislation as time goes on here. That's freaking bananas.
Yeah, see, on the Missouri House side, they have the House Legislative Dashboard shows 1,187 pre-filed bills. They've introduced 1,659 of them. That means they've read them by title in front of the General Assembly, and they have assigned 323 of those 1,659 to a committee.
Jesus.
So how do you get a bill read on like the house? Like, so does not every bill that gets introduced gets read on the House floor, does it?
No, every bill that is introduced must be read on the floor. So what
Okay.
they'll do is they'll say House Bill number 1, something or other, something or other, something or other. Then they'll go House Bill number 2, something, whatever the title is. That's how they read the bill. They don't read the whole entire bill.
Right. Okay. So then as
and then go ahead.
Oh, just as they go, then the Speaker of the House then gets to decide just that committee, this committee, no committee. Like, basically is the puppet master at that point.
Yeah, correct. And at a certain point, if I'm not mistaken, I know I read this somewhere, every bill that has been introduced must be assigned to a committee. So there's a certain day where basically it's legislation drop. On that last day, every single piece of legislation has to be assigned to a committee. That doesn't mean the committee has to look at them, but they have to be assigned to a committee.
Okay. That's actually useful information to know for people who want to get in certain bills, actually see some good legislation get pushed across at a certain point in deadline. It gets moved to committee. Then you can just start calling the committee members and telling them that you want certain bills looked at or pushed forward. So I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, if the bill that you're promoting has not left its General Assembly chamber, I would say no later than probably the second week of April, you might as well forget it. It's going nowhere unless it gets amended onto another piece of legislation, whether or not it has anything to do with the titling of the bill. This is why, for ever since 2010, we used to track how many pieces of legislation were passed and at what point in time during the legislative session that they actually passed. And in the last week, 95% of all pieces of legislation are passed, which is why you end up with these great big ginormous, people like to call them Christmas tree bills, they're omnibus bills, they're whatever you want to call them, but literally you can have a bill that started out with painting sidewalk corners yellow, so I don't know, for whatever purpose, and the next thing you know, it's about fire hydrants, it's about roofing shingles, it's about the tinge of blue that the police cars use and the flashing lights to prevent from blinding people. I mean, there's literally thousands of different topics that are in all these bills that it's just astounding how they get to the point where they put all this crap into one piece of legislation and go, well, that bill absolutely was constitutional. What do roofing shingles and fire hydrants have in common? Nothing.
It's a bill related to things found on planet Earth.
Yeah, that's it.
So I just wonder if someone made my state rep mad. I just was kind of scrolling through because Ben Sassman has a bill. This is HP 1623, emergency suspensions or restrictions of certain professional licenses. I wonder if he got a bad massage. Because it says this bill specifies that the Board of Therapeutic Massage and the Board of Chiropractic Examiners can apply to the Administrative Hearing Commission for an emergency suspension or restriction of a license for a licensed massage therapist or a licensed chiropractor if the licensee is the subject of a pending criminal indictment or other criminal charge related to the duties and responsibilities of the licensed occupation, and there is reasonable cause to believe that the public health, safety, or welfare is at imminent risk of harm. Within 5 days of receiving the complaint, the AHC must conduct a review, and if the AHC determines there is reasonable cause for the board's complaint, that institution will enter the order requested by the board. The order will be effective upon personnel service or delivery of a copy at all of the licensee's current addresses on file with the board. The AHC must then hold an evidentiary hearing on the record within 45 days of the board's filing or upon final adjudication of any criminal charges to determine if the initial order entered by the AHC will continue in effect and whether a cause for discipline exists. This bill is similar to HB 58, 2025, and HB 1549 in 2024. Apparently, Bruce Sassman got a bad massage, or the chiropractor couldn't get his back in place. And he's like, I feel like there's harm being done, and I'm going to take your license. Because how am I going to go out and write all these bills about conservation if my back hurts? So I don't know what's going on here.
It sounds like a red flag law for chiropractors. Is what it sounds like. We have to take their hands away first, then judicial proceedings.
Then due process.
Take their hands first.
Bruce Sassman makes my head hurt so freaking bad. Good God Almighty. Yeah, I don't know, folks. It's going to be one of those sessions where some of us are just got our head in our hands and we're just trying to figure out what exactly has happened in the state of Missouri, just like about every other year. So Tom, just off the top of your head, I don't know how much you've looked yet. I know you and the foundation that you're a part of. I don't remember. I'm sure you've told me before. I don't remember exactly when you guys really start digging in. But have you seen a piece of legislation that made you just take pause and go, what did this person drink before writing this out?
I don't think I would be overestimating if I said like 80% of them.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, you got me there. I should have known that. That was a stupid question.
But on occasion, there are those times when you do read a piece of legislation, and sometimes you have to go back and, at first read, sometimes you have a tendency to take something contextually out of what it meant to say. Kind of like the one of the ones I talked about last Friday was there is a bill being bantered forth. I forget what the number of it is, where there's a state rep in Lebanon that has introduced a piece of legislation that is, he's trying to use the General Assembly to prohibit the people of the city of Springfield from being able to use the ballot box to override a planning and zoning issue within the city, even though that's actually in the city charter. Now, part of the problem is the way it's worded in his piece of legislation. He says that he doesn't name the city of Springfield by name because he's not allowed to, but he does make the case that it's a charter city, but it's partially located in a first-class county. Well, Greene County is a first-class county. The problem is that the city of Springfield is wholly within Greene County. It's not partially located in Greene County. So it leads me to believe that people are trying to make the case that, yeah, this involves Springfield. Basically, he wants the General Assembly to override a part of the city charter, which tells me he's never opened up the state constitution to look at Article 6 and how it is that the people can create a city charter or a county charter, and then the people set up the direct authority of what the city and the county can do, and they also set up what it is that they can do within the confines of that city. And what the people have done with the city charter is that they've given themselves the authority to override their government when their government is not listening to them. Well, the state rep has decided the General Assembly can override that. And somebody reached out to me and asked me to read that. And when I first read it, I said, well, if that passes, I will guarantee you that I will take that one to court. Because there's no way the General Assembly can override a city charter which was approved via Article 6 of the state constitution. Yeah. And considering this guy's from Lebanon, not even from Greene County, even makes it a little bit weirder. But then when I read that piece of legislation and it says that the city is partially located in a first-class county, well, the term partially then tells me that the city that they're talking about is in two different counties. It's not in one county, or else it would say that the city is wholly in one county, or it would use different verbiage. That term partially would not be in there if it was for Springfield. So I don't know exactly what this guy is doing with this piece of legislation. He has introduced it. He is trying to override Article 6 of the state constitution via the General Assembly. And according to the city council, none of them have requested this. Apparently, the Chamber of Commerce didn't request it either, but they did kind of hedge that this is a drawback to the development and the building and things of whatever can occur within the city limits of Springfield, simply because if you buy, let's say, 5 acres in an area that is predominantly single family homes, and you decide that you're going to put 15 apartment buildings with 200 apartments in each one, and the planning and zoning department approves that, well, the people then can go get signatures and they can violate or they can depose that approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission by putting that to a vote of the people and let the people approve whether or not that gets zoned to multi-density apartments or it must remain single-family dwellings. So you really have to the way I think, there's a real property rights issue there that I go back and forth on, because he who or she who owns the property gets to build on the property. And if you as an individual who lived in this area wanted to make sure that apartment buildings did not get put into there, you should have went to all your neighbors and you should have purchased this piece of property to prevent it from being developed into apartment buildings. But with things like BlackRock and all these different non-governmental agencies that are now buying up huge chunks of land and building apartments, I might be swayed to go the opposite direction. But for now, I'm not. But it just seems rather odd that the verbiage for this piece of legislation is a city that's partially located in a first-class county.
All right, I want to bring something else up because I just saw this. This is SJR 97. So right now, you can't serve more than 8 years in either you can serve 8 years in the House and then go to the Senate and also serve 8 years. Apparently, Joe Nicola has sponsored a bill to move that from 8. So it says here that I'm just let me pull this up on the screen so everybody else can see it too. So I don't think I'm just pulling something out of my hind end here. Beginning December 3rd, 2026, no one shall be elected to serve more than 16 years total in both houses of the General Assembly. Now, you can serve 8 in the House and then move over to the Senate and serve another 8, and you're termed out. But I think what they want is I think Senator Nicola wants 16 years. You could serve 16 years in one chamber if you wanted to. I just want to this is one of those hot topics that a lot of people get bent out of shape about when you talk about term limits. So, Tom, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on term limits, and we can talk about this at a state level. We can talk about this at a federal level. I used to kind of be in the mindset that term limits were a good thing. But then I kind of changed my mind after talking to some people, and they made some really good points. Like if you look at, oh God, what the heck's his name? He was a longtime congressman from is it Bond? No. God dang it. What was his name? His son was actually a governor for one term. He was called one of the most corrupt members of Congress.
Blunt? No.
Blunt.
Yes, Blunt.
Roy Blunt. Matt
Yes.
Blunt was the governor.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. When I heard somebody talk, they're like, watch them in their last year. Like they might vote a particular way that you're like, okay, that's not so bad. And then the last year, it's like, who cares? Because I won't be here anymore. Because they're either going to retire or whatever. What's to say it wouldn't be any different if you limit them to 2 terms and their last year they just go through and they pass every stupid thing imaginable anyway? Like the number of years aren't going to matter. If you term them out, they're going to vote horribly because it's like, I can't be elected again, so who cares? And they just commence to act in a fool. But that's just my take. I don't think term limits solves the problem. If you can be bought as soon as you get in the door and you're already entrenched in the machine, what difference does it make if it's 8 years or 40 years and then the next group of people come in and they're bought and paid for? The way our Congress acts now, I don't see term limits solving the issue. But at a state level, Tom, I'll go with you, and then Brandon will go to you. What are your thoughts on term limits, just even if it's here in the state of Missouri?
Well, the problem with term limits is you're taking away someone's choice of vote. Even if if there were term limits in the US House set at 10 years, Thomas Massey would be out. So then who in the House would vote no on a $1.2 trillion omnibus bill? Who would vote no on like $3.3 billion to Israel and then another 500 million to Israel and then 1.5 billion to Egypt, 2 billion to Jordan, $450 million, I believe, for foreign aid for HIV and AIDS testing and funding. So, yeah, without term limits, I mean, you might lose the best people in each chamber, in each house. I mean, once Mike Moon, terms out eventually, then who's going to be in the Senate to post-constitution, to take the mantle on constitutionality there? And so, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You are going to get out, but like you said, first of all, you're going to have people who are like, you're going to have more and more congressmen who are less tied to getting a future vote. They're just going to, like you said, if they're bought by the donors in their last year, it's going to be no holds barred for them. They're going to be passing whatever donor legislation comes in front of them. And then also, you're not guaranteed that the machine can't pump out more corrupt people than we can find constitutional people. I mean, like I said, Thomas Massey is one, and he was the only person, I believe, the only Republican to vote against the big omnibus spending. And that when Democrats are in office, all Democrats vote for that omnibus spending. It's the same bill. They're just not voting for it because the Republicans in office. So you're talking about one guy among a sea of people who would possibly vote no on these terrible bills. I just don't think that problem's solved with term limits.
Tom?
Well, I agree 100% with Brandon, because in reality, you are limiting the availability of a person to keep an individual in that seat of authority that they believe that is beneficial. I have adamantly been opposed to term limits after I figured out that that would be like, John, you saying that you're only allowed to work at your employer for 6 years or 8 years.
Hey,
then after that, you have to be fired and you have to go find another place of employment.
don't tempt me with a good time, Tom. Go ahead.
But I will point out in Article 8, Section 16, and everyone kind of laughs at me when I read this, we realistically have the makings of congressional term limits in our state constitution, because it says no person shall serve in the office of United States Representative for more than 3 terms, but upon ratification of this amendment, no person who has held the office of the United States Representative or who then holds the office shall serve more than 2 additional terms. No person shall serve in the office of United States Senator for more than 2 terms, but upon ratification of this amendment, no person who has held the office of United States Senator or who then holds the office shall serve in the office for more than 1 additional term. Any state may enact by state constitutional amendment longer or shorter limits than those specified in Section A or B herein. This article shall have no time limit within which it must be ratified to become operative upon, and here's the bad part about this, if you believe in term limits, upon the ratification of the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states. Therefore, we, the people of the state of Missouri, have chosen to amend the state constitution to inform voters regarding incumbent and non-incumbent federal candidates' support for the above congressional term limits amendment. And yeah, the people did put term limits on their representatives. I forget exactly when it did occur, but it made it so that you could only serve 8 in the House, 8 in the Senate, for a total of 16. The bill that Senator Nicola has introduced, I have seen that going clear back to 2010. They have been adamantly trying to figure out a way as how to usurp the 8 and 8, and it's always been, well, you can serve in the Senate for 16, or you can serve in the House for 16, or you could serve in the Senate for 12, and then you could serve in the Senate for 12, and then you could serve in the House for 4. There's all kinds of different variations, but I am adamantly opposed to term limits. There's no way that the people of the state, any state, should have ever done this to themselves.
I'll also say that, you know what? I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind.
Well, I'll tell you something else while you're thinking of that, Brandon. Something else that I've seen that's a little creepy. We've only got about 13 minutes left, so I'll keep this short. But one of the other creepy things that I've seen on Facebook is there's an organization bragging that they have like 20 states or something that have climbed on board with a convention of states. And I know Robert Brown has been on this show many times to debunk and specify how stupid that is. And how he's, I agree. I agree with Robert wholeheartedly when he speaks about this. If that is true, I don't know if they'll ever get enough states to actually do a convention of states. The intellectual level, or I should say, the amount of knowledge that the people have, the education that people receive now to trust folks to be nominated to attend this convention and think they're somehow going to fix the Constitution and make it better, terrifies me to no end. And I'll just leave it at that. Brandon, did you remember what you were going to say?
I did. So
Okay.
As far as term limits go, if you're that passionate about it, you can just vote them out. Like if that's one of your big issues, then you just convince everybody that term limits are a big deal. And that once someone reaches a certain number of years in office, then you just decide as the voters that it's time for them to go. Like if you're that passionate about it, just convince all your friends like, hey, this guy's been in for 10 years. 10 years. We need to get him out. Then you go vote him out. So yeah, that's all I had on that.
Yeah, it is.
And Convention of States is the name of the organization.
Yes. There's a couple organizations that I've seen have a post on Facebook about it, but they love to every time they love to post up there that, oh, another state's joined, and I gotta see if I can find uh one of their posts. I'm not sure. Here we go. Yeah,
Could you just? Oh, sorry.
88%, this is their post. 88% of Americans support term limits for career politicians. Over 70% believe additional limits on federal power are needed. Yeah, okay, so it says here's one let me bring up this graphic here that they have posted on the Facebook here. Um States that have passed the Convention of States resolution applying for an Article 5 convention to propose amendments to the Constitution. And it says they have 20 and they're 14 away from reaching their goal, which is just absolutely terrifying. I think it said that when oh yeah, we are over halfway there. 20 states have already passed the Convention of States resolution. 34 are needed. This means this is no longer a fringe idea. It's a national conversation. This movement isn't left. It isn't right. It's about fixing a system that most Americans agree is broken. Term limits, fiscal responsibility, limits on federal overreach. If politics as usual feeds unpopular AF good, that's when real change starts. The 1960s didn't begin with permission. They began with people talking. So I'm sorry, but aren't there already fiscal responsibility? There's already things in the Constitution for that. Federal overreach? I don't know. I think there's already things in the Constitution about federal overreach. So I don't know if you just didn't elect people who thought government was their bully pulpit and a billy club to beat everybody over the head with. I don't, and the people, of course, the people have to be more educated. You wouldn't have to have a convention of states to begin with. But that's just my 2 cents. We've got about 9 minutes left. Tom, your ending thoughts with that, and Brandon, you can give your ending thoughts after Tom here, and then we'll close out the show.
Well, I think term limits in reality, or the Convention of States, is absolutely one of the stupidest things we could ever do. I mean, in reality, we had a Convention of States when we created the U.S. Constitution from the Articles of Confederation, if you want to look at it that way. Mm-hmm. They were called forth to amend the Articles of Confederation to create and form a government that would functionally work and still allow the states to have their sovereignty. And that's predominantly not what we got, nor was it what was even planned. If you read many of the articles written in the anti-federalist papers, they were talking about how it was that the federal government was going to reign supreme. But as for term limits, we didn't have them back in the day. George Washington served 2 terms, and he made the case on why it is that 2 terms should be what it is, that people come, they leave, they get out of there. But back in the day, they weren't making the kind of money that they are now. So you're not going to find principled people. Sans, what's her name? Marjorie Taylor Greene. She left, but I think she left because Trump was ripping on her.
Absolutely. Brandon, your thoughts?
If you polled Democrats, just Democrats, and you asked them, would you be okay with Barack Obama running for a 3rd term? They would probably overwhelmingly vote yes. And then if you ask Republicans the same thing about Trump, just Republican voters, registered Republicans, would you be okay with Trump being president for a 3rd term? An overwhelming majority of them would say yes. So the idea that the masses are going to get together and put in term limits is kind of laughable, because they probably don't even believe it in principle. It's just that every so often someone they don't like is in office, so they want that person out. But they don't really care about term limits, I don't think. And because, like, again, even if you ask Democrats, a lot of their heroes are people that have been in office forever. Like Nancy Pelosi, as crazy as this sounds, is like still a hero to a ton of Democrats. And like even like Dick Cheney, he was a hero to more people than you'd think. Like, I mean, the worst part of the party. So again, the idea that the masses are coming together to form anything is hilarious. Our country, as sad as a state of it is as sad as a state as we're kind of in right now, especially like the Trump administration and the federal government. Like, it's laughable how divided the people still are. So no, I don't think anything's going to come of this. Even if we do, even if you get the states to all convene, you're never going to get an agreement on anything. A ratification from 3/4 of the states in 2026? Get out of here. No way.
Yeah, I agree. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Again, if you watch via YouTube, Rumble, or Facebook, we greatly appreciate you. If you listen on any of the podcasting apps or at molibertyradio.us, we also appreciate your continued viewership and your listenership. Next week, so far, I have a gentleman by the name. Now, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I'll probably screw it up. His first name's Cecil. I'm going to say his last name is Ince. It's INCE. He is a libertarian candidate running for, I believe, Senate. Yeah, it has to be because he's running in Lincoln Huff's district. And if you've listened to this, Ince? Okay.
Ince, that's how he pronounces it, yeah.
Okay. So he is going to be running.
Next week he'll come in and tell you it's Ince.
Probably. Yeah, probably. I hate it's one of my pet peeves. If someone's got an odd spelling of their name, I like to know how it's pronounced before I just rattle it off and sound like an idiot. So I always try to like tread lightly on that. I don't know why it bothers me so to mispronounce someone's name, but it does. But he is going to be joining us next week to talk about his campaign. And if you've listened to this show and some other shows, you'll know that there's not much love for Lincoln Huff because that guy, wow, what a douche. So I look forward to that conversation. I've seen a couple of his posts on how he wants to kind of mend things in certain areas, and he goes through a very long, detailed plan. But it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts on that. So looking forward to that conversation, and then we'll try to get some more guests on here as time goes on. I think I want to try to reach out to the guys from Good Morning Liberty here pretty soon and try to get them on. That would be a fantastic show. Maybe somebody from the Libertarian Institute, Scott Horton's organization. Someone like a Keith Knight or someone like that would be a fantastic guest. But we'll start plugging away. Maybe, just maybe, we'll try to get Spike Cohen on as well. We got to start digging in, finding some other interesting guests. We have our monthly visitor. We only have one, and that's Tom Martz. That's a special spot reserved for the first of the month. But we need to liven things up a little bit and add some other guests. But I think if we could get Nate and Chuck on from Good Morning Liberty, that would be an extra fun episode. If you listen to their show at all, when they really get going, you get a lot of information, but you also laugh your hind end off because when those two guys get rolling, it is quite entertaining. And also they have great merch there, which I am wearing right now. My God Hates Feds hoodie. Love this hoodie. I love the looks that I get. I always look like people look at me like I'm going to be struck by lightning just for wearing this out of the house. So it is interesting when I get side-eyed by about 90% of the public when I wear this out, but that's okay. It's a joke, right? It's just all in good fun. But anyway, that'll do it this week, folks. Again, we appreciate your continued viewership, listenership, and appreciate your support for this show. And we hope that you'll look for Tom on ksgf.com. You can go find the segments, the Nick Reed Show. You can hear him whether he spends an hour or sometimes he does 3 hours if Nick's out and Nick asks him to fill in. So go to ksgf.com and look for those audio segments as well and give Tom a listen and look and listen into the mind of Tom Martz. You might be scared. You might not be. It's hard to say. I guess it depends on the type of person you are. But anyway, that'll do it. And we'll see you fine folks right back here next Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report.
I put a whole bag of jelly beans up my ass.